go. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to manage menopause holistically? If you haven't, we're going to dive deep and we're going to go way beyond the hot flashes, baby, in this episode of Wake Up with Giants TV. Buckle up. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, my12journeys.com, which is scrolling down at the bottom, just conveniently. and I'm here, very conveniently, and I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. It's this, hold on, I got to move my arms around. This bad boy right here. See, there he is right there, Nick. That way, Nicholas T. Smith.
I go to the library and write my name on books. Like, see?
Yeah, it works.
What I did?
You can either spend the time to write the book or just go write your name on books.
Right.
Either way works. And co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, and my12journeys.com, and creator of All Things Good, Nicholas T. Smith. He's here. And Lori Parks is here with us. Thanks for being here, Lori. If you haven't been to my12journeys.com, go there. It's a fantastic site. We have that's where we throw all of our content. So just in case every social media platform on the planet goes down, we have a place for you to help you on your journey. So it's a fantastic site. So go check it out, my12journeys.com. And then go subscribe to YouTube, because then you can hit the alert button and know when we go live every single dang time. And I'm so excited for our guest. I cannot pronounce her name to save my life, probably. I just started calling her doctor, because I will screw it up. Or Dr. D. She's an amazing human being. We're so excited to have her on the show. This one's maybe more for the ladies, but for the dudes to understand what the ladies go through. So, Nicholas T. Smith, do you mind introducing our amazing guest?
Not at all. So welcome back to Wake Up with Giants TV, where we dive deep with some of the most fascinating and impactful figures of our time. And with 260 interviews under our belt so far, you have a lot of catching up to do. So go make sure you do that. Today, we're zeroing in on a powerhouse in the medical field, Dr. Dovile Kalvinskaite. I think I did good right there.
Yeah, you did perfectly well. Thank you. Yeah.
So straight from a small town in Lithuania to the forefront of the UK's medical scene, Dr. Dovile has carved a unique path as an obstetrician, gynecologist, menopause specialist, and a beacon in lifestyle medicine. So her story is one of incredible resilience, marked by her personal comeback from the depths of burnout. This journey reshaped her approach to medicine, blending traditional practices with cutting-edge lifestyle interventions and high-performance coaching. So it's not just about treating symptoms, it's about transforming lives, especially for women navigating the often turbulent waters of menopause. Dr. Dovile isn't just practicing medicine, she's redefining it. So her work led to the creation of a specialized menopause clinic within the NHS, offering a haven of understanding and cutting-edge care. But her impact doesn't stop at the clinic's doors. Through workshops, coaching, and insightful articles, she's spreading her holistic message, advocating for a shift in how we view and manage women's health across the board. So today we get the privilege to unpack the story, the science, and the strategies of Dr. Dovile Kalvinskaite. Her blend of medical expertise, personal resilience, and a deep commitment to empowering others offers a fresh lens on health and wellness. So let's get ready to dive into a conversation that's as enlightening as it is inspiring. Dr. Dovile, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Really glad to be here and to have that conversation. And it's definitely not just for women. It's for people with ovaries and the ones that love them or work with them or are surrounded by them, which is like 100% of the world. So it's for everyone.
I'm glad the topic wasn't men on pause. You know, that could help some women as well, right? Put men on pause. That might resolve a lot of things.
Yeah, really.
Well, we want to dive in. So partly we're going to blend this with the world of the 12 journeys, which is our framework that we use to coach others around the world. It's our framework for becoming a giant. And I know it'll tie into what you're talking about here. We like to go back into your story. We want to talk about you and how you got to where you are. And essentially we begin almost every journey with the non-conscious journey, which is where we define ourselves, our culture defines us, our society defines us. And if you could, we'd like you to do that from your own perspective. Like, how did you grow up? What was it like in your world? Who did you think you were? And how did you arrive at becoming who you are today? Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And where do I start? So like you mentioned in the introductions, I was born in a very small village in Lithuania, so Eastern European country. Grew up in a very poor family with, Eastern Europe. It's alcoholism, post-Soviet Union in those times. So grew up with the father who was alcoholic and lots of domestic violence around. So it was a rough start in the beginning. My mom died very early when I was 7 in a car accident. Dad left even before that. So grandma raised me and my sister in that small village. I went to like small village school and was told by teachers that, I will be nothing good will come out of me, essentially. And when I wanted to go to a bigger school to a town, my teacher said, you shouldn't go there because you will just, fail and you will just have to come back here anyway. And I'm glad I didn't listen. I used to walk to school by foot, like every day for 12 years, several miles to school and back. There were no buses around or anything, but, minus 25 or plus 25, it was like always on foot to school to achieve my dreams. There was a teenage sort of period where I probably was going downhill, ending up as half of, my family, alcoholism and all that. And then something happened that completely changed my life. One sort of failure after other. And then I got sexually assaulted at age 16, which I took, I think, as a sign that, I've been doing lots of things wrong. And it led me to these events that were not leading me anywhere good either. And I took it as a sign that I have to reshape my life. And I did. And I ended up being number 1 at school as the best student and ending up getting into med school as number 1 in the whole country. So, yeah, that's how I started off.
That's impressive. You think about experiences like this, and a lot of people use these experiences as an excuse or a reason, or not even an excuse. I don't even like that word, a justification, right, for not doing things in their world. So it becomes that thing that defines them, and they allow these stories, other people's views of them, to become their identity, and they don't do anything with it. And we'll tie this into menopause, I'm sure, as we go through into your expertise. But what was it that drove you? Like, how did you overcome all of that? Mom passed away, dad's not there, grandma's raising you, teachers say that you're not good enough. How did you overcome that? What was that?
Honestly, since I was very little, I always believed like in guardian angels and someone like being protective of me, like a bigger force.
Yeah.
And I started reading books. I learned how to read myself, essentially, looking through a peephole when my aunt was teaching her son, because no one was there to teach me, and I was just like looking through a peephole and learn how to read. And I was into fairy tales, and there's always a moment in a fairy tale where everything is so bad and so dark, and then the hero story, and then everything turns the corner, and you rise as a phoenix from the ashes and you achieve. So for me, I always approach life like that. No matter how bad it is, there's something good will come out of it, combined with the feeling that there's a bigger force protecting me, my sort of guardian angel. So, and I always saw that, whatever happens for a reason. So it's there to learn. That's what I took probably from the fairy tales.
Yeah.
So that's why my first, obviously, having those events happen, you have a period of dark moments and all that. But then I always come back to that, like, why did this happen? There must be a reason. And I create my fairy tale.
Yeah, it laid the foundation, right? Because you wouldn't be who you are today without it. So we call that the journey of non-consciousness, the journey of awareness, overcoming through grief and all the intense emotions that come up through there. But it's beyond that, because you created yourself. So you had obstacles in front of you. You had things that you had to overcome. And finding ways, trusting and believing that there's something more supporting you, but finding ways to accomplish your goals, even though it was stacked against you. So it wasn't easy. And I think that's what we want to, provide for people, is that it doesn't have to necessarily be easy for you to succeed. Sometimes you've got to kind of peep through the peephole to learn how to read, so to speak.
Love that.
Right. And so there was probably a lot of uncertainty, and I'd imagine that you didn't know back then that you were going to be a doctor of menopause, right? And changing medicine. What kind of sparked that in you? How did you get that vision of, this is where I want to go with my life? What was that?
Honestly, when I was 10 years old, we had this biology lesson where they teach about periods, it was a lesson just for girls, where our teacher was telling, what are the periods, when they start, what to expect, that kind of thing. I just fell in love with periods. I took all the information leaflets. I read everything I could find in biology books. I just fell in love with periods. And since then, I knew that I'm going to be a doctor, and I will be a doctor of periods. So.
Holy cow. My daughter, I have a brother who comes up to visit once a month, and my daughter calls him the period, because he comes up once a month. That's so interesting. So you became fascinated with biology, and specifically the period.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like menstrual periods, and obviously it was started with how they start, and menopause is how they end, and what happens next. And I think that should probably be as part of education in schools as well, and particularly now that we have children, later in life. So, and it's important for teenagers even to recognize that in their moms or in their family, because it changes. It's not just periods that stop. There's so many other changes that are happening, and mental health and other challenges that, if the kids knew what to expect with their parents, they not only could, understand and know that it's not their fault that maybe, mom lashed out or was irritated, but could also support and start that conversation. And kids are really receptive, and they understand biology. They're very curious. And I think it would be so helpful not to only start talking about the start of periods, but also, how they end and what to expect.
That's amazing. So if we start, let's go to the start, right? So the impact of that on the human body, because I have 3 girls, and I've noticed changes in them. They're not the same. They're very moody and chemical changes, and they're trying to figure themselves out. And I'd love to really dive into that, because it's impactful in our identity and who we think we are. As men, I don't know, and maybe you can correct me on this, we don't necessarily go through a change, a hormonal change, the way girls do.
No. So men achieve their testosterone peak at around age 19. Okay. And then it kind of slowly goes down up to just sort of slow trend down up to age 35, when it stabilizes, and then kind of stays pretty much the same throughout their life. Maybe just small decline towards the end with aging, but nothing like, with women age 50, sort of on average age 51, there's massive drop off the cliff with hormones. Men don't have that. So equivalent would be if someone chopped off men's testicles at age 51. Yes.
That would be terrible. Yeah, I'm just going to say, I'll put that out there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. So the drastic change around age 51, is this most women or many women, or how would you identify that?
Only 100% of women
Okay, only
go
100%.
through menopause.
Pretty good odds that you're going to go through it.
Sorry.
Yeah. So probably it's worth just defining what means, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, just so we understand what we're
Please.
talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
So I will start with when periods start, or no, actually when we're born. So girls are born with all the eggs that they will have throughout their life. Compared to men, they produce, semen throughout their whole life, like, new semen every 3 months, and they just keep producing new sperms. Women are born with the eggs that they will have for the rest of their life and just using them as they go. So they're dormant first, up until teenage years when the periods start. So they start maturing, producing hormones. Then you notice the mood changes and everything with your girls. So, the eggs wake up, so to speak, and then they start producing hormones. And then you have these menstrual monthly cycles, the fluctuation of hormones kind of up and down, depending on the cycle. And it's estrogen, progesterone, also testosterone. So all the hormones, they're fluctuating nicely. Then by age 30, we are only left with probably 10% of our eggs that we started off. And by age 40, we only have about 3% of eggs left, meaning that we start losing those hormones, that nice fluctuation, monthly periods and all that. And so we go into perimenopause stage, which is about 7 to 10 years of period before we hit menopause. So menopause is the day when you don't have periods for the whole year. That's the day of menopause. And then the rest of your life is post-menopause. So average age of menopause is between 45 and 55, on average being 51 for Western world.
Yeah.
So if we say, normal menopause is between 45 and 55, and perimenopause can start 7 to 10 years before. So even women at age 35 might start noticing some changes. So it's not to say that menopause is, the problem for women later in life. It can start early on. And then we have like premature menopause, when those eggs end very, very early in the 20s and 30s. And that's 1% of population. So we start perimenopause, go through changes when the hormones are all over the place. So not only periods change, the mood, sleep, weight issues, muscle pains, joint pains, skin, hair loss. There's more than 70 different symptoms that women go through. So it's not only lady parts and periods changing.
I relate to one of them.
Yeah. So and then the periods stop. Then it's menopause and postmenopause. So we're talking about at least probably 40% of women's life that they end up being in perimenopause and menopause. And it's not only that they are affected. People around them and they are affected as well. Relationship, work performance. So it's obviously about health and women, how they feel, but also it's wider implication, even economic and all of that.
I would imagine there's a pretty good percentage of the population that experiences this, right?
So
50% of the population are women. Like,
yeah.
We're going to face this as a society. Like, this is really, I think this is really important.
Yeah. So it's one of the third population in the world right now is in perimenopause or menopause.
Yeah.
One of the third. So, and 1.2 billion women in menopause.
Holy cow. So, I'm fascinated because I'm seeing a pattern in your life. You go from Lithuania, a rough upbringing, navigating all of this as a woman. You're navigating all of this that you're talking about. You study biology, you have a fascination with it. It creates a vision of you wanting to do something around that. You become insatiably curious about it, to the point now that you've consumed so much information around this that now you're an expert on this subject. And I love that, because that's a demonstration to others. When we talk about the 12 journeys, you do a lot of this inner work, and then you start to find curiosities of what's interesting to me in the world, and how can I consume that in such a way that I can start to produce something that's powerful and useful in the world. Your impact is coming from your insatiable curiosity around this topic that many of us probably don't spend enough time in or understand, right?
Yeah, and what I would want to say that I didn't start off like that. So in med school, we get probably an hour of, in 6 years, probably an hour maximum of education about menopause. And as a trainees in obs and gynae, probably another few hours. I had probably zero. I felt like I had zero training in menopause, and we used to dread these women, whiny women, how we would call, coming to us because we had no experience, no knowledge. And I would feel like horrible after those consultations, because usually it's, pregnancy, fertility issues, other problems, the delivery of the babies, and menopause is really left out in our training. And then I think when I had my aunt starting asking me, what's happening with me, what should I do? It was like, and I have like limited information. So there was this study that showed that only 7% of OBGYNs feel somewhat comfortable talking about menopause, and only 30% would be comfortable prescribing like hormone replacement therapy, which is horrible. So, not only hot flashes and other symptoms become the problem, but actually finding a care provider who will listen and actually help you, that's becoming even a bigger problem. So I'm really glad that we started talking about this, and there's more and more people recognizing the importance.
We wouldn't have talked about it if it weren't for Dominic London, right? He was the one who led us to you. And he said, you've got to have her on. This is an important topic. And it really is. I mean, we all know somebody that is going to experience this. We're related to them. We're dating them. We're married to them. And as men, especially, we don't have an understanding. But even for women, maybe they don't understand what's going on either. This ties into me and the root journeys of the 12 journeys into that inner work, because when you understand your body, this goes into that non-conscious level where you really understand what's going on in your body and you can work with it, right? Because there's a lot physiologically that's going on in there that's going to affect your hormones, your mood, your mental health. And I'd love to dive into that with you for a moment, because we're going to go backward rather than looking at the journey of vision and creation. How do we navigate menopause? Not for men, I get that. How do we navigate this from that non-conscious level where our body is doing what it's doing? Can you talk us through the physiology and the biology of the body? What's happening in the woman's body that's creating these changes, and how can she navigate that? Yeah.
So obviously the journey starts with education and what you mentioned, recognizing what's happening with your body. And that's, not only for women, but for men as well, as they can, provide that support along the way, and recognize sometimes when you don't recognize yourself, when you're in the midst of, craziness and in that crisis and not understanding what happens. So what happens really, so I mentioned, 3 hormones, the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So all those hormones change through perimenopause and into menopause. So estrogen, the most important female hormone, which affects all of the tissues in the body. Basically, there's no organ or part of the body that doesn't have the estrogen receptors and doesn't, is not impacted by estrogen. So there's more than 400 areas in your body where estrogen is necessary. So in perimenopause, it starts fluctuating all over the place. Like one day it's very high, the other day it's plummets down. And that's why all those symptoms can, sometimes you're like completely crazy. Sometimes you're very low down, you're not sleeping, or, you don't know what's basically happening with yourself, like all over the place. Your progesterone also starts going down. That means your periods starting changing. They become more sort of more apart or closer together, more heavy, less heavy, like they start changing. The testosterone starts going low down as well. That's loss of libido, loss of muscle mass, loss of energy. Brain doesn't feel like it's functioning the same, loss of motivation, loss of confidence. So there's, like I mentioned, there's more than 70 different symptoms, because, it can be in any part of your body that's affected, and that's what you will feel. But the most common thing that women say is like, I just don't feel myself. Like, I'm not myself anymore. And sometimes they cannot even pin down like one particular problem. Yeah. Sometimes it's very obvious. It's hot flashes, you don't sleep, the weight gain, the hair loss, skin.
That's what
Sometimes it's just
most
like,
of us think about when
yeah.
you know, like I'm realizing my ignorance around menopause right now, like in my lack of education, is that's I could probably list like two or three,
Mm,
symptoms, and number one is probably hot flashes, and they're like, somebody says, "Oh, is it hot in here?" And they're like, "Are you going through menopause?" That's like that's all
mm.
I know. So this is excellent information. I appreciate it. Sorry.
Yeah, but even symptoms like frozen shoulder,
Mm.
burning mouth, tinnitus, vertigo, uh, severe anxiety, new onset of ADHD, even symptoms. Like it's so much wider than just hot flashes or breasts
Can
and
we
all.
hang? I want to hang here for a minute because I really want to highlight what's going on in the body. Um, because we have an identity. If we look at our 12 journeys framework, we're looking at the non-conscious as everything you think you are, all of your stories, your experiences, the way your body's operated for years. There haven't been any changes there. And so you've navigated the world as a certain person, telling everybody this is who I am, this is why I am who I am, this is where it came from, these are all the experiences I've had. So when they say I'm not me, they're literally saying my body is acting completely different from everything I've programmed it to do, right? And so recognizing that when those come up, when that comes up, there's probably a lot of space for grace around what's going on in your body. And I think on both sides of this, men and women, we can have understanding of there is truly a physiological change going on here that's affecting who this person is. And I wonder um, how many people lose themselves to that, like they lose their identity completely because of these hormonal changes. Is that something that happens?
That could be
So
heavy.
estrogen is super important for your brain, and it's involved in many brain wave patterns and for brain actually working normally. So when you lose that estrogen, uh,
Mm.
it really affects your personality, how you feel, your confidence, your anxiety levels, and then obviously that affects everything else. And no wonder women are a lot more likely to develop dementia. And in the UK, dementia is number one death cause for women. So it really affects our brain, and obviously the brain is our personality and all that. And I mean, some of those changes, women are less tolerant than for the BS, and then they set boundaries better. They cut
Yeah.
off people out of their life that are not serving them. They're like more bold. So it not necessarily has to be, a bad change, but it's a process, to adapt to that and recreate basically yourself sometimes
Yeah.
to
So
that new personality. And so brain is one of the most important organs that is affected by the loss of estrogen and testosterone.
I'd be curious about that. So the way the brain is structured, you have oligodendrocytes and microglia and astrocytes, and then you have the neurons that are in there that are all affected by the estrogen, right? Or the testosterone, these chemicals. So these chemicals go in there and the body runs off of that. And so when somebody's going through menopause, or is it perimenopause and then postmenopause? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, so perimenopause, the change, the menopause, loss of periods, and then postmenopause, the rest of your life.
Okay. Okay. So the change, the loss of periods, and then the rest of your life, right? So you literally change at around somewhere between 45 and 55. Your body physiologically is going to go through a change. And this is important for people to prepare for that. And if you're in a partnership, probably really important that you both talk about this as you go through it, because there are going to be some physiological changes that could change how you show up in the world, and how you navigate that is going to dictate that post-menopause period, right?
No, absolutely. And the divorce rate increases probably for that
Oof.
reason.
Yeah.
Because you change as a personality. Obviously, you have more anxiety. There's communication, obviously, issues probably
Yeah. Yeah.
if your partner doesn't understand and doesn't support you. So that's lack of support, and you don't feel like you're not heard of, or the partner feels, oh, she doesn't love me anymore. She's like just moody and loss of interest in sex. And
Yeah.
all that. And then that's one reason why people divorce, or women understand that this is maybe not the right person for me, and they
Yeah. Yeah. So they
better
maybe get really clear.
and they're more clear what they want and might end marriage for that reason. But at the end of the day, it affects relationships significantly.
Yeah. So, this is where tools would be essential. We look at the journey of awareness as waking up. And it's a consciousness and a gentle consciousness around whatever's going on in your life. So when you wake up to this, that you're going through this change, you're going to feel physiologically different. So it might bring up emotions, but you don't really know or can't pinpoint what those emotions are, or where they're coming from. It's just simply your body is adjusting to the physiological changes, the biology, right? So these chemical responses are coming up. And many of us don't want to feel those feelings because they're so uncomfortable. So people could lean on things that are maybe unhealthy. They might numb out. They might gain addictions. They might do things they normally wouldn't do because these emotions are probably really intense. So how do you help them to navigate?
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
that is one way to deal. What
Okay.
becomes a bigger problem is when women understand that there's changes happening within them, and they go and seek support from healthcare providers, and they're told that it's all in their head, or prescribed antidepressants. 60% of women who are prescribed antidepressants are wrongly done so, or they are on 10 different other medication to help solve their symptoms, and not having one provider recognize that it's all menopause, and probably just having like hormone replacement therapy, or that talk, or just validating their symptoms would be the thing that they need, and not 10 different medication which are used, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. So we talk about a journey of acknowledgement or acceptance, which is acknowledging what is, because you are where you are at that age, between 45, 55, 51 on average. If you're going through that, you are where you are. No matter how much you don't like it, you're there. And so we often say, it is what it is, which people hate because they feel like that's a resignation to what is, which it's not. It's just voicing, this is what's going on in me. I'm experiencing a big change in my body. I need support right now. But they don't even know they need support. Their body's going through what it's going through. They go to the doctor and they prescribe antidepressants because they think they're depressed. Right. And I would imagine that the response of the body, the chemical response in the body, is very similar to depression or anxiety, but it's not necessarily that. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So women who, for example, had anxiety or depression in the past, like real true anxiety and depression, and when they go through perimenopause, menopause, very often they have a lot more severe anxiety and depression, and they will tell you that this is not the same like it was, the anxiety or depression in the past. Like, it feels physical, like it feels different.
Yeah.
And that's very important. And anxiety is 2-3 times more severe, and the rate of suicidal thoughts is 8 times more prevalent.
Wow.
Which is another important topic that is not talked about. The suicide rate increases at that age as well. So, and the number one treatment for menopause-related mental health issues is hormone replacement therapy. It's not antidepressants.
Really?
Yeah, it's gold standard, and antidepressants is going to numb you out, decrease your libido even more, and actually affect your bone density. I'm not saying that it's not helpful sometimes, but it shouldn't be the first line if we think
it's overly prescribed, right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
I have a friend who she's got a whole TikTok following, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, all because she was recognizing there was stuff going on in her world, in her body, wasn't happening. She's going to the doctor. She's depressed. She's all the things that you just talked about. And then I don't know how she stumbled upon it. I haven't followed the entire journey, but her whole life changed with hormone replacement therapy. She feels like a new woman. Her libido's up. Her she's doing things she's never done before. She's so excited about life, like a whole new. It's like a reset button almost. And and she didn't even know it was available. She tried everything. She was probably on 10 different prescriptions that you were talking about, and now it's completely different. But from my perspective, I don't know a ton about it. Do you mind sharing a little bit about hormone replacement therapy, what that can do, if there's other ways to,
Yeah.
if you're experiencing this, okay, what do you do if you're starting to recognize and wake up to this? Okay, what's next, ladies? What can you do? Men, how can you support the ladies in this as well? Can you go into that?
Yeah, so I will start saying that obviously menopause management, first education and recognizing, and then like from actual tools, it has to be like a toolbox. It's HRT is great, but we always start with lifestyle changes. So I would say, the approach to menopause should be this. First, lifestyle changes, which is, nutrition, physical activity, stress management, sleep, alcohol, smoking, positive relationship. So that's sort of big bucket that we start with. And actually 40% women, if we personalize that approach with lifestyle, 40% women might not need anything else, or HRT or other medication. So that's a huge bucket of tools that we have. Then it's important to start there always for your long-term health, for your gut health. We know that if your gut is healthy, even your HRT is going to be more effective. So your heart health, bone health, all of that. So lifestyle changes, one of the most important places to start. Then second bucket is various supplements and vitamins and those kind of, so other sort of things that we can do before we go to the medical options. And then the third bucket is medical options, which is hormonal and non-hormonal. So non-hormonal would be various like antidepressants or other things that we can do, particularly for women that cannot go on HRT. And then the hormone therapies, both systemic, where you take either through the mouth or through the skin, and then local hormone therapies that, for example, applied in the vagina for vaginal symptoms, which is, again, hugely underappreciated topic that's not been addressed. So we have these three buckets. And so my background, I'm not only OBGYN, I'm also a lifestyle medicine physician, which I got into when I got my burnout after COVID and working a lot. And I was gaining weight and not sleeping and just like everything. I was about to quit medicine completely. And then I started looking into other ways how to improve my health, and went into like health optimization, biohacking, started listening to all these crazy people. And then I found there's actually a new branch of medicine, which is called lifestyle medicine. And I did certification and training and exam in that. And those are those 6 pillars that I mentioned, nutrition and the rest. And I applied that to myself, and I have energy levels that I didn't even know are available to me. Lifestyle changes, if you know what you're doing, like specific things, not just, eat less, exercise more. That's bullshit. Sorry for the language.
You're good.
But yeah, so if we know,
that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. So if you know what you're doing, you can do so much. And so I started that with myself, and I trained a lot in that. And now the main discussion in my menopause clinic is probably the lifestyle changes. And so I had this one patient who came to me. She was already on hormone replacement therapy, and quite sort of reasonable dose. I just did minor adjustments. And when she came in, she was like crying, and she said, I'm still so miserable. I'm ready to step in front of the car. Like that bad. I cannot work. My confidence is lost. She has a job that she loves, her dream job, and now she cannot even do presentations without like getting hot flushed or getting anxiety and panic attacks that she's doing something wrong. She was miserable, like really miserable. And I spent probably more than an hour just talking what she could do with lifestyle changes. She came back 5 months later, and she said, like I said, I didn't change much with HRT. Just with lifestyle changes, she said, my life is 90% different. She is going out with friends, going to concerts, she's enjoying her work, she's sleeping. She said, like, I could stay in my bed forever. Like, I'm sleeping so well. So it's just so powerful when you know what you're doing. And so we definitely should never skip that step.
Yeah. So when we're looking at a holistic approach, it's not just one thing. So when we talk about HRT, that's one approach of many. But holistically, we look at the whole human. It's a blend of that inner world of who you think you are, going through that and navigating your mental state. But physically, you've got to do things too, because this isn't just a mental problem. This is a full body problem. This is a holistic problem. And so you really have to address, like when you say lifestyle, I'd love for you to go through that a little bit. And you mentioned that topic. If we can go into that a little bit more, you say it's under talked about. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it up. And how does this apply to men as well who are watching the show?
So maybe let's start with how does this apply to men?
Okay. Yeah.
So like I said,
for us, it's survival. We need to know so we don't die in the process of or unalive. Sorry, TikTok or Facebook or whoever's watching this.
Too late. Yeah, let's just keep going.
We don't want to. we don't want to I want to understand this so that in my relationships that I'm sensitive to it, that I'm supportive and understanding, because we all want balance and harmony and peace and all those things. So ready, go, because I'm like, let's do this.
Yeah, the best consultations that I have is when the partner comes with a woman. That's understanding, what she's going through, supporting her through that, but also, knowing what to expect and how to show up for her, but also advocating for the woman. Like brain fog, memory issues is one of the most disturbing symptoms of menopause. Like they feel like they cannot remember words, they forget things. There's a brain fog, like lack of energy. So sometimes another person, a partner that comes to them, can advocate, remind or ask questions, or for help them through that consultation, and actually remember things what I'm saying, because probably I bombard with so much information that is so overwhelming sometimes. So just supporting in that way. And then obviously, if you're not directly having a partner or a mother or someone who's affected, you probably work with someone, and particularly men in power, you could help and reduce that stigma at work. Like 60% of women think of quitting their jobs, 10% actually quit their jobs, another 10% don't go for promotions. These are women who are highly experienced, and at the peak of their performance, we're losing women just purely because of menopause symptoms. Another 40% go on long-term sick leave. So if you're a man in power and you have a company or women working for you or with you, why don't support, or if you have such training, show up and learn to understand them better and how to support them better. So there's many ways men can support women.
That's huge right there, because you look at the population, there are plenty of women out there that are between the ages of 45 and 55 that are likely going through this, and companies and partnerships should really understand this, right?
So I'm actually doing a talk a couple of weeks from now in a huge corporation for men and women. And so there's more places that recognizing the importance of it. So I just want to, promote this and educate, like, just let's talk more. Let's make it normal, part of the conversation.
Yeah. Wow. And it's not something that we do. I don't talk about this ever. Like, this is the first time I've ever talked about this. It's so interesting to me. As men, our lives, we go through the emotional side of it, but the physiological side doesn't seem to be as impactful as it is for women. No. And, being in relationship, to understand our partners, our coworkers, our friends, our family members, our parents, right? To understand them can give some grace for what they're going through. Because I think what we do is we make people feel wrong for what they're experiencing. As a society, we're collectively like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, and not even society. The medical professionals, they gaslight women, say, it's all in your head. Like it's they're just, lack of education it's really sad among medical professionals. So what we should, and then we expect society or men to understand them better when we doctors don't understand them. So my consultations, the most important part of the consultation is probably listening and validating. That's, just giving that space to talk, and then just saying you're not going crazy. It's actual physiological changes. It's, it's real what happening to you. It's not just in your head. And that really gives, I think, a big part of success is just like validating that journey.
Well, so you've talked about gaslighting from doctors, but what about self-gaslighting?
Oh yeah, that's very true as well. Yeah, sometimes you just think, maybe this is just stress or just something else, or am I just going crazy? This is and then
running an old pattern, like, well, I'm this, I'm that, talking down to yourself. That's where it's important to, like, for other people too, to be able to come in and support, be like, no, that's not, this is, you're good. This is normal. If more of us knew how to support, we could step in and help in those scenarios. So I'm so grateful that we're talking about this, because I don't know hardly anything, but now I know 100 times more than I did, 45 minutes ago. And
Yeah.
now I can help, if I see that, if I recognize it, I can step in and say something, or how can I support you? What's going on? Just be more consciously aware and emotionally supportive for what's going on in their world. Because like 8 times more likely to commit suicide, that's a lot, and if something that I can do or say shifts that even just a little bit, to me, that's super important. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
So we can go now into the actual tools. What can
Yeah,
be
let's
done?
do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like I said, first bucket lifestyle changes. So I always start with nutrition. So and I might just give like very specific things without going too much detail into like evidence, but like just actual specific things what they can do.
Yeah.
So the most important thing becomes preserving muscle mass. We start losing muscle mass from age 40, probably about 10% every 10 years. That's both men and women. And muscle mass and lean muscle mass is probably the organ of longevity. And the less muscle you have, the more weight gain, metabolism is affected, diabetes risk increases, your risk of falling, mobility, life quality, everything changes. So preserving muscle mass becomes number one priority. And then that's where, men can support women just, doing those lifestyle changes together and supporting in that way. So nutrition, to preserve muscle mass, you need obviously building blocks. So that's protein. So high protein diet. And what I mean by high protein is about 1.6 grams per kilogram. That's about a gram per pound of ideal body mass. So that's probably at least 30 to 40 grams with each meal. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, which is quite a lot when you think. So high protein diet. And then the second part to preserve muscle, you need the exercise. And that's the resistance training, the weightlifting, not the cardio. I mean, cardio and everything else, walking, great, but you should focus on actually lifting heavy stuff.
On getting muscles.
Yeah. So muscle is number one. If people don't take much from this and they just take one thing, just keeping your muscle mass becomes number one priority. So high protein diet is number one. Then another big part from nutrition is getting fiber. So fiber we get, from fruits, vegetables, the grains, the nuts, and all of that. So in our standard diet, we probably get about 10, 12 grams of fiber per day. And we need at least 25, 30 grams of fiber per day. So that's probably a pound of vegetables per day, if you're sort of rough numbers. But so fiber is important for many things, and particularly gut health. So I mentioned, the importance of gut health, and there's so much more evidence coming out how gut health is probably one of the most important things for overall health. So feeding your gut microbes, so good bacteria, is super important to reduce your risk of heart disease, inflammation in the body, which happens a lot in menopause because estrogen is anti-inflammatory. So when you lose it, there's lots of inflammation. That's why your risk of heart disease increases, diabetes risk, dementia, you start losing bone. There's lots of things happening with loss of estrogen. So keeping your gut healthy is super, super important. And like I mentioned, your hormones are metabolized in the gut. So if you have not great gut health, even your HRT or your hormones that you still have left are not going to be as effective as they could be. So addressing that part is super important. So it's another non-negotiable. So protein and fiber, 2 non-negotiables that has to come into the diet. And I wouldn't necessarily count the calories, but count your protein and your fiber. And if you hit those targets, you're really probably achieving at least 80% of benefits there.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to anchor it in with what we do in our work. The root journeys, everything that you're talking about ties into these root journeys. Recognizing that we have this in us. That the non-conscious journey is all about, who we think we are, how our bodies react to things, the chemical responses, the physical with the mental, all of that. The second journey is that awareness. So when there are changes in here where something's not working, awareness is the key to unlocking that transformation. It's the first step in transformation. The third is recognizing that we all have emotions. The journey of grief is how to navigate those heavier emotions. The fourth is acceptance and acknowledgement, which is giving grace to whatever's going on. It's okay that you are where you are. The fifth is gratitude and positivity, because gratitude elevates dopamine and serotonin in the body. But the reason we use that is because it's a tool. And the journey, the sixth journey, the journey of empowerment, is all about anchoring ourselves in so that we don't backslide and finding tools that help us in times that we need them. So really everything that we're doing right here is within the first 6 journeys of the 12 journey program, because it's essential that we do this inner work, because what goes on in here expresses out here. So we don't vision the same when we're unhealthy in here. We don't have the same dreams. We don't have the same motivations, inspirations, aspirations. We don't surrender, right? We struggle through life. So when you can come back, like what you're talking about, is somebody's going through this change, menopause, and they start to feel this big shift in their body. To recognize what's going on and how to navigate that is huge, because really we shouldn't even be out here in the legacy leaving or visioning if we're a mess in here, right? So we have to come back and do our root work, which is to really dive into what you're talking about, is recognize how your body works and what's going on, and then find the tools to help you to navigate that, which I love the idea of muscle as your primary focus. Maintaining that is your number one responsibility. How often are we taught that, right?
Yeah. And
Hardly ever.
Taught from early on, these are the basics.
Yeah.
It should be, you shouldn't be aiming to be like slim or anything, like skinny, not skinny, but strong. That's what you want. Even like how to, like, sometimes people ask, how do you prepare for menopause? Be strong, have lots of muscle mass.
Not skinny.
Not be skinny, strong, be strong. That's the main message that should go out.
So somebody who has a lot of muscle mass is likely to navigate this different or better.
Absolutely. So the more muscle, because we all start losing muscle because of aging process. That's
Yes.
natural. And if we don't do anything, obviously we lose it faster. But if you start here and start losing the muscle mass sort of slowly, it's different if you start here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So the more muscle mass you have, that means your bones are more dense. That's another thing, very important topic in menopause. We start losing bone density very rapidly after we lose that estrogen. And 50% of women will have a menopause-related bone fracture in their life. And 30% will die even if they have surgery. And if they don't have surgery, they will die. 70% of them will die within 1 year after that fracture. So having bone mass and muscle mass is number one priority.
Yeah.
I have 3 girls and a wife and a dog. And so I'm surrounded by girls. So I need to understand this stuff so that I can make sure that.
He gone. And he's gone. I think he hit the button. It's so intriguing to me, because as men, as I look at my partnership, my relationship, as my girlfriend is in this age range, and to be aware of this, that she could go through that. It's vital that I hold space for that I give her grace for that I, understand what she might be going through. And at work, right? Other people, it doesn't become an excuse for bad behavior. It becomes an understanding of why they might be behaving the way they are, right? And perhaps help them navigate.
No, absolutely. And creating that environment where even just talking about it is not stigmatized and it's normalized. So sometimes people say, menopause is natural, just deal with it. You hear that. But so is like a loss of like erection or heart disease. Like, why do we treat those things and we stigmatize menopause as being natural, just deal with it. Like,
I'm with you on that. Let's take away the stigma. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it into our works, bring it into our homes, bring it into discussion, because we all know a woman. And if 100% of them are going to go through this, we might want to know about it. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So going through the other lifestyle changes. So nutrition, I mentioned, obviously there's more, but I'll leave with those couple of things. The physical activity, super important, the weight training, focus on that. And even like exercise snacks. So for example, if you do 1 to 3 minutes of some sort of intensive exercise, even like jumping jacks, like 3 times a day. So let's say 3 minutes a day of exercise snack where you raise your heart rate, you can reduce your all-cause mortality by 30 to 40%. Like, if you cannot do anything, just do that. Like nothing, anything is better than nothing in exercise. Even 3-5 minutes. If you haven't done anything before, if you start with 3-5 minutes and build from there, you don't have to go to the gym 5 times a week to start with. Start somewhere, even if it's 3 or 5 minutes. That's
Wow.
the bottom line.
How do people get in touch with you?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have my website, dovivita.com. I'm in a process of creating things and workshops, webinars. So I'm doing some education, like with corporates as well. I don't do any private work. I work in the government hospital in the NHS in the UK. So
okay, so you don't meet with people individually yet?
No,
but they can follow you on Instagram.
No, so I do online consulting for the lifestyle, but I don't prescribe the HRT.
Okay.
But the lifestyle, like I said, with lifestyle and optimizing supplements and like high performance coaching, which is also about the getting clarity, getting influence, the relationships, the purpose part, also physiology and psychology, like combining everything. So I do that kind of coaching and consulting and menopause kind of education in general, but the only thing I don't do online is I don't prescribe.
Okay. So is there, I always wonder this question. Is there a question you wish somebody would ask you, but they never do? Like, or does that bring up a topic you wish you could talk about?
Well, I guess we haven't covered so much.
Yeah.
There's lots of like HRT related myths. So just to run through, finish off, like sleep is another huge topic that we talk. Then the stress management and meditation. That's another, for example, non-negotiable that we discuss even like 5-10 minutes. So we go through all those tools, the supplements, and then the HRT. And there's so many myths around HRT among women and doctors, and probably even more doctors. And even my colleagues, obstetrician gynecologists, sometimes the comments they make is just like, oh, I just want to scream. So there's lots of myths around HRT, and so just bringing that conversation and talking more openly and stop gaslighting women. I could talk. Probably you can see I could talk like for hours on this.
Yeah, I know you could, and man, I wish we could, go for hours on it. And I'd invite people to continue the conversation with you, to follow along with what you're doing. I don't know if this works. Tell me if this works for people to follow you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Dovile MD on Facebook.
Yeah, so Facebook, Instagram, and so dovivita.com is my website where they could book a consultation with me, or if they want me to do like speaking or education for the companies, they can contact me there. I'm in a process like creating more of a visibility online. It's just been sort of working in the shadows a bit. So I'm in a process creating. So I'll start sharing more. Of
how do we spell the website here?
So Dovivita, so Dovile. No, so now that you ask. So dovivita.com, Dovivita.
Dovivita.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to try and find it so we can put it up here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Ryan, did you have any thoughts as we come to the close here?
Yeah, I wrote down like just how for me personally, just to dive in and start to get more familiar with this information, because that's a large part of somebody's life. That's right in the middle and of their life, and where I interact with a lot of women and a lot of men that are going through relationship things, where I can then go in and support men and women by just taking on a little bit more information on this, and then also having such a great referral where I can turn around and then pass them to people like you that have just made this their passion. the period is your passion, right? This is your thing. And so then I can help support them and say, hey, I've got some great resources. Let me help you. Let me guide you on this. I can give you some ideas of what I've learned, and then I'll then turn around and pass them off, which is the whole message of the giants, is putting people on your shoulders, and standing up and giving them a whole new perspective. I can do that to a degree, but then I can pass them to a true giant in that field where they can really feel supported, really feel like that they can get a game plan together of what to do. Because I'm sure there's some tweaking and some person like some making this personal to what they're going through. There's some generality to it as well. And just I can help with some of the generality and then pass them to somebody like you that just absolutely understands and knows what they're going through and how to solve a lot of the problems that they're facing, and relate to their fears and frustrations, and then help them elevate them, so that they don't feel like that they have to, maybe go to drastic measures or end a relationship. Maybe that'll save marriages, or
Or their
just
jobs.
save lives, save jobs, all of those things. And
Mm.
so I'm grateful for this conversation. I'm grateful for, even all the hard things that you've been through in life, where you were told that you would be nothing. Um, you're not. You never were. And now, because of you, so many other people are finding their happiness, finding their joy, maybe rediscovering it, learning about what their bodies are doing, and can learn from your experiences as well in life. So thank you for not giving up. Thank you for continuing to inspire and share your information and your passion with other people, because you're making a giant difference in the world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here and having this conversation, which is important for not only 100% of women, but 100% of people. Yeah.
I think it is. I think it is. And man, I've learned a lot tonight. Man, I'm already at the end of my day and it just started.
It's closer tonight for her than it is for
Yeah,
us.
right. As I hear it though, it gives me, space for understanding for others that are going through things that I don't relate to because I've never gone through it. I had a conversation the other night with a lady that is a positive psychologist, and she's never experienced anxiety, never experienced depression. And I wonder how do you relate to people that have? Can you relate to them? I've never gone through menopause. I never will go through menopause, but I 100% will be in relationship with somebody that will go through it. And so having that understanding in advance allows me to prepare myself to have empathy for what they're going through, some compassion for what they're going through, give them grace for what they're going through, and maybe some space to help navigate that together. And it still comes back to, we each have to do our work, but many of us on the outside of that work can hold space for that person to do their work. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, probably. Obviously, it's just sometimes just helping recognize what they're going through. Sometimes, you just think they're crazy, and it's just like you're so in it that you don't see the bigger picture. But when you're trying to say, oh, maybe you're menopausal, maybe just create that conversation and that environment, when the things are a bit calmed down, and just say, oh, I listened to this great podcast. I've heard these things. Like, do you think any of this, happening to you? Like, how are you feeling? Like, maybe then she will start thinking, oh, actually, yes, maybe it's perimenopause, maybe it's menopause. It's like, just starting to have that conversation. I think it's so important. So thank you so much again for having it here.
You're very welcome. For everybody that's watching, we appreciate you. We see your comments come through. It makes the show. Man, I learned a ton today on stuff I didn't even know I needed to know. Right. And so now I've got this curiosity of, okay, what else can I learn around this so that I can support others? For you that are watching, you probably know somebody that could use this video right here. And so send it to them, share it with them, tell them why they should watch this show. We have over 260 interviews like this on our podcast. And our goal is to inspire in you your giantness, because we see in others their way of becoming a giant in the world. And Dr. Dovile, you've inspired us with what you're doing, definitely living into your giantness. And for those that are watching, we hope that you're inspired by her story and her knowledge and her discoveries. So, man, that's a huge quote right there, Ryan. He disappeared.
Yeah,
So
I'm behind it though. I'm still here.
you're getting behind that quote, that
Yes.
comment. So for you that are watching, thank you for being a part of this. We're always grateful to have you here. Make sure you go have a giant day. Remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. The giant is already within you. Go take small steps today to be that giant. And we hope that this video is one step in that direction. So we appreciate you. Go make it a giant day. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks,
Take care.
doctor. Love you too.
Thank you. Bye.